So, Joe, we have some more developments, drip, 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 coming out of the Russia hoax. And we now know the name of Christopher Steele's primary source. He is Igor Danchenko. Is a 42-year-old Russian-trained lawyer born in the Ukraine. What else do we know about him and his role in the Steele dossier?
We know that he worked at the Brookings Institution, which is really a fascinating part of his biography because the Brookings Institution is the epicenter of the resistance to President Trump in the think tank. And as you know, it is a Democratic elephant resting ground where donkeys go to wait for the next Democratic administration. Mm-hmm. And it is out of there that Ben Wittes and the people at Lawfare have constructed false narratives, I say knowingly false narratives, against the President of the United States. So Danchenko has a pedigree which lines him up with people who have sought to destroy the president. He's a former Russian occupant. He's actually a resident of the United States. He wasn't a Russian-based source. He was an American-based source. He had nothing to do. He hadn't been back there in years. He was talking in bars to friends. He was passing on gossip, totally useless information. And what's disturbing about this is that in his interview, which was conducted by the FBI and prosecutors in January of 2017 under a proffer agreement. In other words, he had what they call a queen for a day, an immunity for a day to come in and talk to them. They discovered that everything he had to say was totally useless, totally uncorroborated, and that was the basis for the Steele dossier. And his information was used in FISA warrants, two of which have been found to be formally illegal, and the other two are on their way to being illegal.
So in other words, this vicious, scurrilous dossier has been proven to be even more vicious and even more scurrilous because Christopher Steele himself never went to Moscow or Russia to collect any of this information. He relied on a source while he was staying in London. He relied on a source that we now know was in the United States the entire time, relaying gossip that turned out to be, of course, completely untrue. I mean, at some point, there have to be charges filed against somebody for using information like that to violate the civil liberties of the people in and around the Trump campaign, no?
Well, there's no doubt about it. There certainly should be. I don't think there's any question that the illegal activity of the FBI and senior Obama administration, DOJ, and law enforcement and intelligence officials constituted obstruction of justice of the court, lying to the FISA court. But it's actually bigger than that. That's the easy part. The part that becomes more dangerous is the conspiracy to continue this in the face of false evidence. People at the FBI knew the information was false, and They continued to investigate the president anyway. They continued to investigate Michael Flynn anyway. So the question becomes, why did they do that? And the answer is actually pretty simple. They hated Donald Trump, and they wanted to destroy him. They wanted Hillary Clinton to be president. She didn't make it, so they had to destroy him. And the notion that senior U.S. law enforcement and intelligence officials believe this crap coming from Christopher Steele says they're either the most incompetent people who ever ran U.S. counterintelligence or they are the biggest criminals who ever ran U.S. counterintelligence. Either one is a damning conclusion. By the way, I fall on the side of criminals, all of them, lock, stock, and barrel.
Speaking of lying, Senator Lindsey Graham yesterday was on Fox Sunday Futures with Maria Bartiromo, and he said that the FBI lied their butts off to Congress regarding the reliability of the Steele dossier. And he said, I will tell you next week what I found. Here's what I think I'm going to be able to show the public. Not only did the FBI lie to the court about the reliability of the Steele dossier, they also lied to Congress. That's a separate crime. What does he have in store for us this coming week? Do you know?
I don't really know with Lindsey. It's hard to tell on any given day. He seems to have perked up a little bit and started to enjoy being chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee and doing his job and not just talk about it. He's going to show that James Comey, Clapper, Brennan all committed perjury before the committees, both in the Senate and, of course, the House. They don't care over in the House now, but the Senate Judiciary Committee will be able to show that they were lied to. And then it's going to be up to Barr and Durham to decide whether or not they're going to prosecute people for lying to Congress. They clearly lied to Congress. Brennan, Clapper, Comey, clearly everybody lied. There's just no doubt about it, including other FBI officials who testified to Congress during that same time period.
Joe DiGenova, I want to switch gears with you. I want to ask you about Nicholas Sandmann, who won a lawsuit, or settled a lawsuit at least, with the Washington Post. He originally sued that paper for $250 million. The terms of the settlement are unknown, unreported, but he clearly was happy about it, tweeted about this the other day, and he's got a range of other lawsuits against other media companies still standing. This all revolves around, of course, his attendance at I believe it was the March for Life. He was standing right outside the Lincoln Memorial as Nathan Phillips, that Native American activist, started banging a drum in his face, and the media covered it like Nick Sandmann was the villain.
Yeah. Well, he's already settled with CNN. He's now settled with the Washington Post. Nick Sandmann, who just turned 18, is a very rich young man, and he's going to get richer. He has a fine lawyer, two of them, in Lynn Wood and Todd McMurtry, who are representing him. And he was defamed scurrilously by the mainstream media purposely in another faux, false racism charge against this young man. And really a disgraceful performance by American journalism. But this is where we are. I mean, the bigger lesson from this is that American journalism is dead. And the fact that they have to pay this money is a kind of marvelous tribute to the degradation of American journalism, where it has gone. It's one thing to print false stories about somebody and get sued. You have to pay a price. This was worse than that. This was an effort to destroy a young boy, not because he was evil or because he tried to hurt someone, but because he wore a Donald Trump MAGA hat. They decided they were going to destroy a young man and ruin his life forever. That tells you what goes on in the editorial rooms, both news and editorial, at the Washington Post and elsewhere. They are no longer news outlets. They are ideological. They're the stormtroopers. Nancy Pelosi can call legitimate federal agents going in to preserve the peace stormtroopers. The real stormtroopers are the American journalists who now feed the frenzy of violent mobs all over this country by printing false stories and defaming people every day. And I must say this, democracy dies in darkness at the Post. It also dies in debt.
Yeah, I was going to say, how long can they continue? Since journalism is dying a rapid death, how long can they continue to pay out these huge settlements? Probably not for long. Joe, we're out of time. Thank you so much. We always enjoy our time with you. Have a great week.
All right. Well, it does help if the world's richest man